Hello and welcome to another edition of an English guy watching wrestling. I'm the English, I'm the English guy. I'm Nick. Thank you so much for clicking on another video. I really appreciate it. And this one, we're going to be covering the latest Impact pay-per-view Rebellion from the 25th of April 2021, and a very historic night for many reasons. And we'll get into it. So here we go. Opening matchup was an X Division Championship match with Ace Austin defending the title against TJ Perkins and Josh Alexander. And if you wanted a way to open the pay-per-view, this is it. This was an absolutely cracking X Division match. X Division title match, I'd say. All year long, the X Division has been what it's always been, the pinnacle, shall we say, of Impact Wrestling, because the X Division is where Impact Wrestling really started to make its name back in the early days when it was called TNA. And to this day, it just shows what it's all about. This was an absolutely incredible match between three very unique styles of wrestling. TJ Perkins, one of the best all-rounders. Josh Alexander, perhaps the best all-round wrestler in Impact, against Ace Austin, who I think is an incredible wrestler. But the exchanges, the wrestling, the impact moves, no pun intended, for all three men was just absolutely incredible through this match. And I thought this was one of the best X Division Championship matches this year, and that's saying something because there's been some absolutely incredible matches. But this was really a prime example of what it is all about. The exchanges between Josh Alexander and TJP again showed what wrestling, how good the wrestling is, I should say. Absolutely incredible. And Ace Austin did some things in this match I've never seen him do before. He was really on fire as well. And even though I was kind of half sad to see him lose the title, to see a new champion, Josh Alexander, I think was the right move, because Josh Alexander is a workhorse. No other way to say it. To win a title of him, you're going to have to do something pretty spectacular to beat one of the strongest and best wrestlers in all of Impact, in wrestling right now. But this was an absolutely incredible way to open a pay-per-view. And I think everybody can agree this was an X Division title match that was worthy of a main event. And it was the opening match. So when you've got that kind of match to open a pay-per-view, you're going to have a great time. And a great time continued on from there. So that being said, the next match was Violent by Design versus Willie Mack, Chris Sabin, Eddie Edwards, and James Storm. Now, Violent by Design is of course made up of Cody is now called, Joe Doring, Rhino, and Eric Young. Now, Eric Young recently suffered an ACL injury in his match against Eddie Edwards. Apologies. Was unable to compete. It came out of nowhere. I do apologise again. It came out was injured, so unfortunately they had to find a replacement. That replacement was W.M. Morrison, who you may not know was Kaz. Now, everyone knows Kaz has recently made his return to wrestling and is a massive, massive guy. And he was the man that replaced Eric Young. And whilst not officially a member of Violent by Design, a guy given a chance, shall we say. And he made the most of it because he got the winning pin from what was an absolutely superb 8-man tag match. Everybody managed to get a chance of really good offense in. It's a very, very good cutting the ring off tag team wrestling by Violent by Design. And it just shows what kind of a group they are. I mean, you've got 4 veterans. Now, I'll say this by now, Big Kaz is a veteran. Against Impact's heart and soul, shall we say, on the other side. And of course, it being Violent by Design versus Impact is kind of the way they went with it. And it went the right way because of the way they moved around, the way they did things. It just works perfectly. And, Big Kaz, or WM, I'll call him, doesn't look like he's missed a step. So great to see him back in. This was a very, very good 8-man tag match. And I kind of like the Impact versus Violent by Design mentality, because as we've been mentioned until now, the notions have been there, sure, but it hasn't really been mentioned out loud, but now it has, and I'm glad to see it. I wouldn't mind seeing more of it, I should say. Time myself, yes again. But I really enjoyed this match, and it was a very, very good 8-man tag match, so definitely check it out. It's good stuff to continue on a good track for me. And this match was Brian Myers versus Matt Cardona. Of course, for those who know, Brian Myers and Matt Cardona pretty much started in the business together, same training school, and have been best friends for many, many years. And of course, Matt Cardona playing the I want to be your friend still kind of card with Brian Myers, who is not really doing that in Impact Wrestling. He's doing the most professional wrestler. And the little notions, I should say, that a friendship has been broken showed in what was actually a very, very good match, and a tale very well told by both men. Both veterans, both know each other so, so well, and they showed it in this match, and it was a very well told match. And storytelling sometimes overpowers what was actually a good wrestling match, I will say that. But the storytelling in this match from both men was first rate. The injury angle at the end of the match for Matt Cardona legitimately looked like he did hurt his leg, to be fair, the way he landed. Brian Myers took advantage of that, hit the finisher, won the match, won the match, and it was a very good example of what a storytelling match can do. The very well told story before with the promos, the build up was also well put together. Of course, the friendship divided, broken, and continued. The shall we say try to redeem friendship side of Matt Cardona and Brian Myers. Brian's not having none of it. So it's great to see that kind of match happen, and a story that I think both men told very well, and a very good match. So definitely thumbs up for both men for this one. Oh, thumbs up to everybody else in the running matches. Didn't do that. I usually do that. Didn't do it this time. And this match was the Impact World Tag Team Title match with Fire and Flavor defending against Jordynne Grace and Rachel Ellering. Now, Rachel, of course, made her Impact debut this past Thursday because obviously Jazz has now retired, unfortunately. So she was looking to find a replacement, and she found one. And I'm going to say, Jordynne Grace is perhaps the strongest female wrestler out there right now. She's incredibly strong. Those who know her have seen her. Not to say Rachel Ellering cannot be up there with her in terms of strength. It's not very often you see that in tag team wrestling. You know, two female wrestlers. I would say, on the whole, Jordynne Grace is a little bit stronger. But not to say Rachel Ellering is not strong at all, because she is. And they proved it. And not very often you see a tag team like that in wrestling. And especially on the women's side, that's great. More variety. And against, a very game Fire and Flavor who put in a very good match too. And this was a very good match overall. I thought the exchanges between both people in the ring at the time was great. And so glad to say that Tasha Steelz is fine after a really hard looking bump earlier in the match. But thankfully she's okay. She wasn't injured. She was able to continue in the match, I'm glad to say. So very, very pleased to hear that. But as tag team title matches for Impact Knockouts go, this was great. And the knockout division all year has been superb. And I think this is a prime example of what it's about. And kind of cool to see new tag team champions. I was not expecting Rachel Ellering to get a title so soon, but I'm all for it. You know, more variety, throwing in Rachel Ellering, veteran by now. She's been around for a while, actually, because she's honed her craft more overseas in the United States. But hey, sometimes that works out for the best, and of course it did here, because we've got new tag team champions. So it's really cool to see Rachel Ellering get a chance at Impact, and of course Jordynne Grace, by now a staple of the Impact Knockouts division. Strongest women's wrestler perhaps in the world, along with perhaps another female strongest wrestler in the world, won the titles in what was actually a very good match. I enjoyed the exchanges between Kiera Hogan especially. She really packed what Fire and Flavor was all about. So did Tasha Steelz. So very, very cool to see. So definitely thumbs up to everybody involved. So my nose is playing up again. I do apologize. I think we're okay. And this match was a last man standing match between Sami Callihan and Trey Miguel. And of course, since Trey Miguel's return to Impact, Sami Callihan has been saying that he doesn't have the passion he once did. Trey Miguel, this is, of course, been playing that card with him a little bit. And I can kind of see why, Sami's playing that card, because Sami plays it very, very well. And Trey Miguel is a fantastic wrestler. I think he's amazing. And he can prove he's got passion, of course. By now, he's stepped on his own. Of course, once part of the Rascals, one of my favourite trios of all time in wrestling. Of course, MSK doing a great thing in NXT Tag Team Champions, so pleased to see it. But Trey Miguel stood out on his own, and he's definitely stood out on his own this match, because not very often do I watch a Last Man Standing match thinking, okay, that was actually a very well told Last Man Standing match, because this was. Last Man Standing matches kind of have a strange place for me in wrestling, because I don't mind them, but sometimes they're over-gimmicked. This one was not. This was actually a very well put together Last Man Standing match between two guys who made it work very well. And the finish of this match was superb, with Trey Miguel being hit on steel steps, which Trey Miguel put the end that usually have on the ring steps. Obviously, when you step up the ring steps, the other end's facing the steps. But he gets ring apron thing, and he trapped Trey Miguel. Trey Miguel came under and came out and got him out. And basically got out of the 10 count was a very, very smart and innovative way to escape the 10 count. And Trey Miguel won, and I think ended what was a good last man standing match. I said I'm not the world's biggest fan of them sometimes, but this one was actually not overly gimmicked as some are. This was well done and quite violent, actually, to be honest. But Sami Callihan has known that in his matches for many, many years. And hats off to Trey Miguel for putting on a good performance. I'm sure he still has that passion. He still has that love for professional racing. So definite thumbs up for both men for actually doing a good last man standing match. So well done. And next match was the Impact Tag Team Championships of Finjuice defending against the Good Brothers. Now, Finjuice have been in New Japan for a little while, because obviously they are New Japan side wrestlers. Against the Good Brothers, of course, if you know the Good Brothers, you know their history. Long time New Japan alumni. Cut their teeth as a tag team in Japan, of course. Famed for being members of the Bullet Club for a long time. One of the first few members of that group. And still one of the best tag teams in wrestling. I really like them, what they do. And I absolutely love Finjuice, to be honest. So, I do apologise. I absolutely love Finjuice because of what they do. It's not very often you see a tag team pay tribute to tag teams in the past as much as they do. Obviously, with the tag team maneuvers like the Doomsday Device, the Heart Attack, little things like that. I absolutely love. And this was actually a very good tag match. To be fair, both teams put in a good performance. I think Finjuice retaining the titles was the right call. As much as I do like the Good Brothers, and I do. I think Finjuice have more in them as tag team champions and can tell more of a story. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see. Hopefully in the future we'll see them get some really other good tag teams in Impact. Time will tell. But as tag team title matches go, this is very well put together. Isolating one man and obviously that story for the Good Brothers. And sometimes old school tactics in that kind of sense when these kind of matches work. And this worked very well. And this was an enjoyable tag team title match. And I really enjoyed the ending. It was just a winning out of nowhere. A situation. Of course, Good Brothers, not the first time it's happened to them. But I thought Finjuice retaining was the right call in a good title match. So, tag team title match, I should say. So, thumbs up to all 4 men. Was led to another title match, the X Division Knockout Championship match. Deonna Purrazzo defending against Tenille Dashwood. Now, this is not the first time these two ladies ever met in wrestling. I think they first met outside of Impact Wrestling. I don't think they've ever met in a singles match in Impact. So if they have, I apologise. I meant it's fine. But it wasn't the longest match on the card, to be honest. But it wasn't a bad match either. And obviously, with Deonna being perhaps the best female technical wrestler in the world, showed it in this match. And not saying that Tenille Dashwood didn't put on a very good performance, because she did. And she's got the charisma, she's got the style, and she's got the wrestling ability as well. But so does Deonna Purrazzo. And this was a very well put together match. And I think Deonna winning was the right call because she's taken on all comers. And then at the end of the match, we're the returning Knockouts champion, Taylor Wilde, saying my apologies, returned. So hopefully a future contender for the Knockouts championship. So I'm interested to see what happens there. But what Tenille and Deonna did, and this was very well put together. I enjoyed it. A good Knockouts championship match. I wish it was a bit longer because I think it could have told more of a story, but sometimes it happens, but sometimes all we need is a short match to get the point across. That is exactly what they did, so thumbs up. Which brought us to the main event, and I think a matchup that many people were talking for so long since it was announced, including myself. The historic title versus title match. Rich Swann, the Impact World Heavyweight Champion, or Unified Champion as he's now called, versus Kenny Omega, the AEW World Champion. Now, the story they told for the promos for this was very well put together. Obviously, Kenny Omega went into this match as the favourite, Rich Swann the underdog, and I was half expecting it to be the other way around because it was on an Impact pay-per-view, not an AEW pay-per-view. That being said, it was a matchup that had a lot of people in the wrestling world having their eyes on it to see what could happen. Because an unprecedented match like this does not happen very often. I think it's ever happened in Impact history. But this was a very, very, very good match. And my match of the night, and that's saying something because there were some very good matches along the way. I'm a big Kenny Omega fan. He's my favourite wrestler. I will admit that. But not to say Rich Swann is not a hell of a wrestler, and he is. The exchanges between both men was world class. Kenny Omega did some things I've never seen him do in a match. Same with Rich Swann. They pulled out something very different in this match, and they knew what it was about. A very historic match of this kind, you know, brought something a bit more out of each man, I think. And to have Mauro Ronaldo, I can never, I'm so bad at pronouncing names. Mauro on commentary for this match was a joy. Yeah, he's such an amazing play-by-play commentator, and he proved it here. And for him, commentating this match made it feel more special because he's an incredible commentator, and perhaps one of the best commentators in all of combat sports ever. Um, he really made this match hyped up even more because he is that good. And you know, when you've got two world-class wrestlers like Kenny Omega and Rich Swann going at it, you are going to get a very good, what was actually fantastic back and forth match. It could have gone either way at some point. And Kenny Omega hitting the V trigger multiple times was, I think, the real tell because he hit some hard V triggers in this match. And Rich Swann sold the whole situation perfectly, and to prove that he was battered by multiple victories, and of course Kenny Omega hitting the one-winged angel to win the Impact World Unified Championship. Of course, now as the belt collector adds yet another belt to his collection, and I have to tip my hat to both Impact and AEW for doing something like this because I never thought it would happen. Obviously, AEW and Impact have been working together side by side for a while, but I never thought this would happen. But Kenny Omega, being an insanely talented wrestler as he is, I think was the favourite to win. As much as I do like Rich Swann, I think Rich Swann is superb. Kenny winning was the right call because I think he can elevate Impact Wrestling even more than it has been elevated. It's been very, very good recently, but I think now it's going to be even better because Kenny Omega will be turning up there on on the television. And who knows? Basically, Impact's Rich Swann maybe make an appearance at Dynamite or AEW event to try and get the belt back. Who knows? But I think, honestly, this was a very, very well-timed match between fantastic wrestlers. The high-impact moves in this were absolutely incredible. Snapdragon from Kenny Omega is still the most brutal suplexes I've seen because of the speed of it. Rich Swann hit a beautiful Phoenix splash onto the outside. And just a bit into the match, I thought Rich Swann really hurt himself because as you know, he does that handspring cutter. He did a handspring on the outside, with legs up in the air, on the outside. I do apologise about that. And Kenny Omega hit him, and he looks like he pressed his neck pretty hard. And I thought, that doesn't look good. But credit to Rich Swann, he continued the match and put on a fantastic performance. And Kenny winning was just a signification of, Impact putting their faith in AEW and putting their faith in Kenny Omega, and I can't fault but absolutely admire that. It shows that wrestling companies can work together and have this kind of trust, unification. It's fantastic. So I really, really like it. And thumbs up. Actually, I will salute. Very rarely do I not give a thumbs up. I will salute both Kenny and Rich Swann for producing a match that nobody will ever forget because of the quality of the match, because of the significance of the match, and just an overall brilliant match. Ooh. Apologies if I decide to have a mind of its own for no reason. Anyway, but that topped off what was actually a superb main event overall. I really liked it, and thumbs up to everybody, Impact and AEW, to producing a fantastic show. And on that high note, we'll end the review here. Thank you so much for watching. I do appreciate it, and I'll see everybody next time. But until that time, take care.